And recording is in process. So people are going to start joining it. They're starting to join now. It's usually a little bit slow, so I like to give people some time to join. But we have two guests that are a bit tight on time today. So I'll do a little bit of an intro, and when more people join, they can get to the good stuff straight away. So hi everyone, my name is Luisa. I am at Algrano, and I'm here with my colleague Maffer as well, who can give some technical support to anyone that might need it. If you're having any issues or if you want to ask any question, just ping Maffer. And I would like to give a welcome to everyone that's here. Thanks for joining us for the second round of Ready to Rumble. It's like a two training sessions for roasters that are inspired in the trends reports that we published at the end of last year. So this trends report is something that we do every year at Algrano. We do it primarily for coffee producers, so they know a little bit of what's happening in the roasters universe. They know which problems they're having, where they're struggling with, what they're more interested in buying, the kind of coffees or the origins that they're looking into. But there's also like a lot of very rich information that is of interest to roasters. And this is what I said last time. So like when we were talking to roasters and interviewing them for this report, we heard so much about the struggles of the past couple of years. Like people got out of COVID and had so many problems with like consumers being more price sensitive, inflation, higher operational costs. And some of the roasters that we were talking to, they had really good or really interesting solutions to different problems. So last week we had Joe Coffee and Kutum talking a little bit about how they're trying to make their coffees more accessible by simplifying their menu and or also by investing in consumer education and how they use their menu to leverage consumer education. And today I have here Philip from Cafe Maher and Ted from Equator. And they're going to talk about, it's a similar like background or a main topic, but they're talking about it from like very different angles. So it's all about like widening your audience, widening your reach. But Philip will talk more about like online presence and how you can grow online presence as a roastery. And Ted will talk about products that are geared towards convenience and can be distributed through different channels as well. So yeah, I think I can start with you guys doing a little bit of an introduction. Philip, should we start with you first?
Yes, it's a pleasure. So hi everyone, and thank you, Luisa and Elgrano, for inviting me. It's an honor, and I'm really happy to share what we experienced in the past years. Now, I'm part and managing partner of Cafe Macher, which means coffee makers in English, and that is actually what we do. So we make coffee. We make coffee from A to Z, and we actually have interest to do pretty much everything with coffee. So on one hand, and we run and own a farm in Nicaragua, and then we have a coffee school. And the coffee school, this is where everything started in 2009. So it still exists and it's bigger than ever now. We have a roastery and two coffee shops, and we do have online shops as well. But the core of what we do was always sharing knowledge. And this is how we started in the Coffee Academy. But today we are much more of a digital company. So we share most of our knowledge via YouTube and articles and podcasts. We are a limited liability company and yeah, very much committed to a purpose company model. So we are a company in steward ownership, which allows us to do things like owning a coffee farm in the north of Nicaragua, for example. And yeah, that's as a start. That's what we do from A to Z.
We talked about maybe you talking about that before we decided on the topic, and then, but yeah, I think that would be a completely different ball game anyway. Ted, I'll hand it to you now.
Yeah, that's yeah. Thank you for inviting me, and hello everyone. It's good to be here. My name is Ted Statura. I'm the director of coffee for Equator Coffees. It's a coffee roasting operation based in the San Francisco Bay Area, California, USA. The company has been around since 1995. It was kind of early on in what some people consider the third wave of coffee, trying to make connections with coffee producers and telling their stories, bringing coffee to a better understanding of coffee to consumers in our communities. We're involved in purchasing organic and certified fair trade coffee for many years. I've been with the company for 12 years, overseeing the coffee program. So that involves coffee purchasing, quality assurance, working with the roasting team to make sure our coffee tastes great, and working with the marketing team to kind of communicate the story of coffee to our customers. So we have currently we have 12 cafes throughout the state of California. So 3 in Southern California, and the remainder in the San Francisco Bay Area, including the city of San Francisco, Oakland, Burlingame, which is a city down by the San Francisco airport, as well as in Marin County, where Equator Coffees is headquartered. It's interesting, Philip, you mentioned owning a coffee farm in Nicaragua. Equator owns a coffee farm in Panama. So maybe we should have a second webinar at some point where we could talk about.
We should, and we should visit each other.
Definitely. I was in Nicaragua last year, but I have Panama in my sights for March. So I am planning to visit Finca Sofia, which is a farm in Chiriquí, Volcan growing region, super high elevation, up over 2,100 meters at the top of the farm, and planted mostly with Gesha variety, although there are pockets of other varieties growing, which we're excited about. I could go on, but why don't I pause there and we could move into the webinar.
Yeah, no, because I bet that you can talk about the farm for a very long time, you and Philip both, and then you geek out, and then we lose track of everything else. We can do it. We can do a second one. That's a good idea. I just wanted to say to all the guests, like the attendees, that we'll do a Q&A at the end, time allowing. I'm going to try to keep it short. There's a lot of questions that I also want to put to Philip and Ted. But you can send your questions on the chat, and Mafra will take note of them to read them at the end. So by all means, at any time during the webinar, just send your questions, and we'll gather them for the end. And it's also very nice to hear a little bit about the people that are joining. So if you can put on the chat like your name and where you're joining from, that's always also very cool, because we can't, like, you guys can't see each other, so it's just mainly like hearing us talk. So it's nice, I guess, to have a little bit more interaction in the chat. So just feel free to do it as well. So Philip, let's start with you. You mentioned a little bit about like how you've became a digital focused company. So I wanted to ask a little bit more about that. So you started as with a focus in gastronomy, and then you decided to change to be more like a service provider in a digital company. Can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to make that change and where you're now? Like you've been doing like testing products for a long time now, like longer than you've changed the focus of the company.
Yes, you're right. But it wasn't the plan from the beginning. So we started with the Coffee Academy and one coffee shop, and that was it. But the academy grew, and at one point there was a Benjamin founder and a friend and business partner. He said, "Look, we really should do YouTube." And he was always early in terms of digital stuff. He also introduced me to Instagram when it was still new. For me, it was really old when I joined it, but he just convinced me to do it. So, but the basic idea was then to talk about coffee and the coffee industry in a transparent and engaging way, and to reach a wider clientele, or just to reach a wider audience, because we had a lot of people in the coffee school. So back then it was 70 to 80 days of schooling So this year it's going to be 165 days of coffee school. So it
Oh, wow.
doubled within the last, I would say, let's say 5 years. But that has a lot to do because we went digital. So once we did the YouTube channel, we started testing. So we basically testing machines and testing other things. But in the beginning, we also talked a lot about different stuff, and we do it today as well. But the focus is on testing. So the idea was also because we learn a lot about it when we test something, and that's actually the core idea of our company. So if we want to talk about something in our videos or in our courses, we need to do it first. So we need to learn, and learning by doing. And once learned, we teach it in the academy. And so our courses, I would say, they got substantially better in the past years. But not only the courses, but also the the knowledge of the people who come to the courses, because they watch all the videos, and that's impressive. So they watch all the videos. I actually don't watch all the videos because we do a lot of testing these days. So if someone approaches me and says, the grinder burrs of the machine, etc., so well, I don't know. So but the team grew, and so we have different people on the team that really can help and answer pretty much every question. But the testing on YouTube is definitely one of the main activities we do on the YouTube channel. So the audience will be 100K subscribers soon. It's only in German. We're going to start a channel in Spanish very soon, but the Spanish channel will be directed only, or like focus will be for coffee producers, to tell them how we deal with coffee, because we know a lot about what happens on the other side of the coffee chain, but many producers don't really know what happens on our side of the coffee chain. So we want to flip this. Now, as for the tests, you can imagine with more subscribers, there is more reach, but there is also more. We need to take care of what we actually talk about. So sometimes it's really hard to come by a machine, because some manufacturers don't want to send us a machine because we're going to test it and then it will be out. So we need to be careful what we say. And that's why and also with our measuring protocols, we established it with the Zurich University of Applied Sciences to have, so it's third party certified, if you like. And that knowledge then is really, well, it's scientific. So it has a scientific background, and then we do it our way. And that helps to be consistent and to be transparent. And if it happens that we make a mistake, then we redo it, because it's too, also once it's out, and it could
Wow.
damage a name. So that's why there's a big responsibility. So with reach comes responsibility.
And I guess it's, well, scientific without having that kind of sense of like trying to make science sexy, that you tried to do that before and you see you didn't do very well with it, like the paper reviews.
Yes, that was a one-off. We tried, but it didn't really work out. But we are not a scientific journal, or channel. No, we are coffee people, and we learn by doing. And our background is not really in science, but if we want to talk about it, and if we want to be precise, so we need some backup, and that's why we love to work with different universities as well. So we run different projects with different universities, just also to have another opinion, because again, once it's out, and then people can get really harsh, or we just want to we don't want to disseminate false information.
And well, you're talking about YouTube mainly, because that's where the tests work, but you also have a podcast. And you were saying like podcast is not great for consumers, really. It's like smart to generate awareness. Is more like
Right.
like an industry like an industry focus content type of content.
Yes.
So I think we can focus on the YouTube, but I also want you to focus on the website, because I think that's an important a part of what you do and of the digital presence. Can you explain to us a little bit about what resonates on those two platforms, and how you can
Right.
feature the coffees without making like too much of a sales pitch? Because I think that's where we all kind of like end up if we're not careful. Let's buy this coffee.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? And just one thing to podcasts. Yes, the format per se is very challenging, right? Because it demands time, and it's the opposite of 90 seconds videos. and you reach different audience on every channel. So that's why we also want to test every channel. So we have an Etsy channel, we have a TikTok channel, we do LinkedIn weekly more. We do YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and so we try out different things on different channels. And that's interesting because we also have a different tonality on different channels. And for us, it's also a learning. And sometimes we refrain from posting something on one channel because we know this is really not good or it won't be performing. But yes, it's definitely not a sales event, and it's never the idea, because all the online activities we do is more to disseminate knowledge, to get in touch with others, to talk about coffee. But sales doesn't really work so for us. But what it does, it creates, it's kind of a bonding exercise, right? So it's trust, and trust is key. And one thing we see a lot is people are waiting until we are having an opinion on things people want to know about coffee. So to give you one example, there is, are you familiar with this coffee ball? You know, the coffee capsule without the
Oh, yes.
capsule,
Who
right?
created it again?
And it's a Swiss company. It's the second biggest roaster in Switzerland. Delica, they have their own brand called Café Royal. And they even made it to, wow, one of these, what was it? Like an American talk show. I don't know, Jimmy Fallon, maybe. Yeah, maybe Jimmy Fallon talked about the coffee balls. You know, now what happened is the day after they published it, or they went live, we made a video and a blog post, and it happened that because our site authority, so Google ranks, or every search engine, so they promote site authority. So the more you do it, the more you have your niche, the more you publish in your niche, you gain some site authority, and that helps you.
Can
That
you
they
explain what
bring,
site? Can you explain what site authority
so
is for
they
people that
they
don't know
deem
again?
you as an expert in your topic, right? So the more you publish about coffee, they think, well, you are an expert on coffee, so they give you more authority, and your site gets more authority, and that leads that to the fact that when you publish something, they reward you with a higher ranking in the search engine. That means when we published our coffee bowl video and coffee bowl article, we ranked higher than the coffee bowl website itself, which must have hurt them, right? I mean, it looked a bit mean, but it was also quite funny for us. So until today, we are top 3, because every time they make a sales action, you're like 2 for 1, or I don't know, then people look first for, for an opinion on it. And because we were early, so we have a lot of views on that video and also on the article. So the search engine helps us a bit and rewards us for that. So we still have a really high ranking in that. Now, that was a good momentum, but this is also one thing that I could recommend. So if you pick up a trend, or if you pick up something, you think, well, people are really interested in it, have an opinion on it from your perspective. And it doesn't have to be super sophisticated, right? But because you're a coffee expert, so people know you have an opinion on it. So that's, well, that helps a lot. But maybe back to selling. So this is not a sales exercise, right? Because we also talk a lot. We talk about other roasteries and their coffees, etc. So if we would do it, so maybe 10% of all screen time, we talk about our coffees. If we would flip it, like 90%, no one would buy our coffee. But what we do is actually this, showing up regularly, maybe every other day, maybe every day, creates this artificial community and this bonding thing, and creates trust that at one point or another, you may be top of mind for someone who wants to buy some coffee, and then they would buy your coffee.
And you also have that, well, this is not necessarily to widen the reach, I guess. It's more like for bonding and for creating loyalties, that you do like once a month, you have
Yes.
sessions on YouTube as well for first-time buyers.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that, because they're quite popular, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we started during Corona, and so whenever someone buys something in our online shop, you get a code. You get a code for a Zoom session, and mostly every last Thursday a month, there are 2 team members. They are live for 90 minutes, 2 hours, and it's just like us here, like sitting here and answering questions. And the fun bit is that suddenly you see the people that buy your stuff, right? So, and they follow or they comment or something. And then you talk about coffee. Now, most interesting bit is that the coffee questions could be from, well, the dose of this coffee, what would you recommend on the Dedica machine, to, well, is Arabica self-pollinating? So it's pretty much everything. So that's why you always have two people, so one could actually look up the answer. But that's cool because it generates this, this exclusivity. This is an exclusive event. It's online, and it costs 2 hours for two people, so it's 4 hours investment. But I would say it's one of the best investments we did, because this really creates trust. And what we see is that many people, they are serial joiners, so they join every month, and they don't have a question, but they just like hanging out together online.
And you were saying before as well that this is not like a sales exercise,
Mhm.
but I think ultimately, like, one of the things that people are trying to do with digital presence is that they'll like try to create some community, or reach out to people that will eventually come and buy your coffee. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we do it, even though if it's not the only reason or the main reason. So it's hard to like establish this direct correlation between, someone came
Yes.
to a YouTube event, and then, or to a webinar, and then they're going to buy coffee afterwards. But you said this to me when we were talking. It's like, but there's the rule of 7 in marketing, and you have to like reach people, like be a touch point 7 times before they'll buy anything from you. So like, how do you work that? Like, how do you try to reach people these 7 times before they'll come back to you?
Well, there's not a real strategy. Yeah, we are all self-taught. I would say self-taught coffee people, self-taught entrepreneurs, self-taught analysts. But we are actually, if a business analyst would join us, they would leave the first day. I would say,
Are you
"There's so much."
hiring?
No, 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 no. I mean, there's so much potential here, maybe. So I don't know. But for us, I don't see, or we don't see a lot of correlation. It's tricky, at least for us, right? But
there is is it Michelle? The
yes,
case
exactly.
with
There is
Michelle.
some. Yeah, exactly. The case with Michelle. So in the YouTube videos we do, most of the YouTube videos are testing videos. So Benjamin and Michelle are testing machines and grinders. And in the background there is a coffee they use for testing, and they always drink it. Let's say it's a 45 minutes testing video, and there's a session of 2 minutes drinking a coffee. It's always the same coffee they drink. It's called Apas because it's from a cooperative in Brazil called Apas. So we named the coffee after them, and it's our most sold coffee. I would 75% of the espresso beverages is this coffee, which is crazy. But it's not a real sales push. It is just there, right? So it's just the normal thing they drink. So people buy a machine maybe and want to have the same experience. So they maybe want to have exactly this coffee too. And at one point there was another coffee. There was this boozy, funky coffee from El Salvador. And then Michel had a sip and he just freaked out. And he said, it wasn't really planned, but we could play with it because he just freaked out. Said, oh, this is so tasty. This is wonderful. And he said, shit, maybe 40 times in a row. It's said, all right. So it maybe addresses some basic instincts, but at the same time, so we could use this fraction of 30 seconds and just put it on Instagram and YouTube Shorts. So YouTube Shorts, they perform really well. And there was the first correlation we actually saw, oh, this can work. Because then overnight there were hundreds of orders for exactly this coffee because they wanted to have, I don't know, maybe the same funky rush as Michelle did. But it's not something we would bank on, and it's not something we would do every single time. But, just sometimes add a little bit of, out of the line thing can help.
But you're trying to, I guess, to keep people in the kind of like in your ecosystem. If you think about you said that the web shop's not a shop, you see it more as an experience. You're trying
Yes.
to keep people there as much time as you can, I guess.
Yes, and we also want to, to talk about things people really want to know. Because when we started with writing articles and doing videos, we had a lot of fun because we did exactly what we wanted to do, and it was for us, it was for a niche, and we felt good, and we, like some shoulder patting, say, yes, now we wrote a really important piece, And I would still say some of them are really important, but to a, just a really small audience and basically to the industry. But then when you listen more to, to the people you want to address, and you have really good tools at your disposal. So every Instagram comment, every YouTube comment, every online comment is a lot. So we looked more into this, and then we also did the, like the search engines screening. You do just look for what people are looking for. There are hundreds of tools. Most of them are free actually, and that's how we started. Like we ask the public, right? Is one of them and say, hey, what do people really want to know? And one of the first, let's say, hit articles was an article that we wrote, and it was about the how many spoons of coffee shall I use for making a good coffee? Because many people, they calculate in spoons. So this was the title of the article. I mean, if you come from a strong coffee background, you would say, no, don't use spoons, use a scale. So yes, I would support that. But let's be friend and let's, meet people where they are and say, yes, you take spoons, I see. If you take this spoon, you need maybe 2 spoons, but if you take another, you maybe need 3. I have an idea. You could use a scale, right? So I present you an alternative. And that works really well. So most of the articles and videos we do now are more like this, like really basic coffee questions, but then take it to a level where you actually can learn something. And then you have more, just to answer your question, then you have more dwell time on your website. So dwell time means the more time people spend on your website, you also the search engines, they reward you because you also get more site authority when people spend more time reading your articles.
And well, when I was hearing, I think it was mainly you talk about the testing, because I think the testing is the more involved kind of content that you have. And I just wanted to say to Alejandro that I saw your question and I'll ask Philip afterwards. So you were talking about like the testings and like everyone's a bit involved. So you have the team structure that you have at Cafe Mahar is quite different, I guess, than other roasteries might have, because like everyone is involved in it. Everyone participates in videos and creates content, inverted commas. And you even said that you hire people with that in mind. So people do a little bit of like a job carving, and so they can include that in as part of their week. How do you do that? Like how do you structure the team to make sure that like this is not like added tasks or extra time, extra money that you're gonna have to put into it?
Yeah, it's a bit different. So when we hire people, yes, then we mostly after half a year they wear at least 2 hats because we are based in Basel and in Germany, but in Basel there's our headquarter, and we have coffee shops, academy, and roastery, and the shop. So there's a lot to do, and there's testing, and there's YouTube, and there's editing. And if someone shows interest in learning something, then yeah, feel free. Let's do this. And then maybe 20% of the job is suddenly something else than initially planned. But yes, you're right. We do this ourselves. And you said yes in content creation. So I prefer knowledge creation because that's our intention. Because when we do a lot of testing and when we roast and when we learn something on the farm, everything is a story, right? I mean, you just need to pick it up and talk about it. And it doesn't have to be a super elaborated story all the time. It can be a 60-second reel. It can be a funny Insta story, but that's our intention to talk about it, to talk about everything we do, and we would never outsource it, because it's genuine to us. It's more genuine if we do it, because we learn. So our intention is to learn about coffee. So we do experiments, we learn the hard way, and then we talk about it. And we do not want someone else to talk about what we experience, because it's also, there's a loss in translation, and it's also it's slow. And one of the things we want to be is actually fast, and when we have an idea, we just want to do it. And as a result, I think it really helps to gain more authenticity, with actually no tricks involved, no frills, because it's what you do. I mean, you don't need to, there's no makeup. It's just you say what you did, and that's fun to us. And whenever someone of the team has a story, then please tell it. And so that's why recently we hired someone with the idea to collect stories from the team, because we do a lot of things at the same time and we are never able, the two, three of us who do the postings, etc., to cover everything. So there's Noemi, she's in charge of collecting stories from the team, and that's fun.
I like that job. I'm a bit jealous now.
Picking up stories and just
Yeah.
throw them out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. That sounds good. So my last question to you before we move on to Ted is more about the producer side of like how you include that into your either digital events or your videos, your podcasts, because you have very solid relationships with a number of producers that luckily they managed to visit you a few times. You have visited them as well. So how do you feature them and why is that important? I mean, what do you think that has, like, what impact do you think that has for consumers?
For the consumers that buy our coffee and that drink our coffee, I think it's of a really high value, right? Just to know the face behind your product. It's true for everything we eat. So once you know someone, you drink or eat it differently. So that's why I really cherish these moments, either when we are visiting them or they visiting us. And at one point I just realized, wow, gosh, we are just experiencing so much hospitality over there, and let's do the same. So that's why when someone is coming over, I try to collect as many people from the team and say, look, it's kind of a standard program. So we go to the first coffee shop, to the other one we have lunch, and then we do a workshop, and then we a get together and a cupping, etc. And because I just want our guests to see faces, and even if they don't remember the names, but just to see, oh yeah, there are different faces, because some faces of our team, mine included, is a lot online, but I want him to see, look, it's actually a really big team, and that's what I want to do. It's tricky because but that's only the visit, right? But I mean, there are 364 other days, and we want to talk more about our friends, producers, partners. And it's not always that easy, and it's always a different strategy. It depends a bit on the context. So some they send us videos. I'm really happy to share all the videos. That makes me actually most happy. So they produce something, we can share it on their behalf. That's that I like it, just to give them, or to be an amplifier for their cause. But you once asked about the language barrier, because we had last summer we had a visit from some Brazilian producers, and none of us speaks like real Brazilian. It's a bit more like Portuñol. But then we had a translator. So that helped a lot, because we didn't want to have this experience of chit chatting. So I really wanted them and the team to have the possibility to talk like the heavy stuff, like real stuff. So, and that was good. That was also a kind of a bonding experience. And yeah, visit is one thing, but the other thing is I want to get more screen time for our partners and producer friends. It's just I have not a clear image yet, and we are testing out some new things in the coming weeks as well.
So for everyone that wants to check what Cafe Maher is testing, Philip, if you could put your YouTube channel
Sure.
To people on the chat, put the English and the German one, I think, because the English one is getting more and more updates as well. So I think that could be quite interesting. And thank you very much. Ted, I am with you now. Do you guys do a lot of digital content as well at Equator, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I don't, not to the same level. We don't have a very active YouTube channel yet. Got some great ideas from Philip. Who knows? But we are certainly kind of involved in the social media world. Instagram in particular is where we get a lot of interaction. Last couple of years, I did a series of interviews with coffee producers, so helping again to kind of bring their story to the public, to our customers, and our followers on social media, and that was done through Instagram Live. where we chatted, for half an hour, an hour sometimes, just talking about their farms, the varieties, processing methods, how they kind of got into coffee in the first place, and trying to humanize the coffee growers for consumers who it's quite opaque for many consumers. They kind of think of it as a finished beverage and often don't know a lot of the details from the place where coffee is grown. So that was a fun series we did over the last couple of years. But yeah, that's
you do a lot of other stuff already, I guess. And like we've done a lot of Instagram lives in the past before with producers and virtual origin trips. The internet can be tricky, and then we learned to pre-record what they wanted to show of the farm, because like you can never have reliable internet in the middle of a farm, so that's always very complicated.
Right. Yeah. Often they're, in their homes or offices where you do have that reliable connection.
Yeah. But Ted, let's talk about more of the thing that Equator is focusing on right now, or what has focused for many years, I guess. Because on top of whole bean sales, the roastery has a lot of different products that are aimed to bringing more convenience to consumers. So you have instant coffee, you have ready to drink, and you have now capsules since of end of last year. I remember that when we were interviewing you for the trends report, you were going to launch, and then we published a bit later, and then we had to change. They already launched it, and everything is certified, as you said, or most of the coffees are certified, as you said. And I think people normally they associate this kind of products like with those big brands that they have master distribution channels and they are very cheap, so is people buy on the supermarket, but that's not really what Equator does, right? Equator doesn't compete on price. You guys compete on quality, and for people to know the quality that you have, they have to have tried you before. So that's why I was thinking, do you think that this kind of product, in the context in which Equator does it, it's more useful or more successful for consumers that they're already familiar with the brand, so they already know you a little bit from before and know the quality that you do? Or do you think it's or more successful or equally successful with new business, to find out new people, to develop new consumers?
Right. I'd say it's a mix of both. I mean, certainly when we launch a new product, the first people to find out about it are our existing customers. So whether those are customers who are buying coffee online or those coming into our cafes to buy a coffee beverage, they're seeing, a package of instant coffee and that they've never seen before. They could engage with the barista to learn more or read about it online. And we have seen success with customers who they buy whole bean coffee, but they're also buying a package of instant coffee. So maybe every day they're brewing their whole bean coffee at home, but when they're on the road, they might grab that those packages of instant coffee to brew when they're out and about in the world. So that has been the initial interest was from our own existing customer base, but beyond that, we're also seeing interest from others who maybe kind of just looking for instant coffee in general and kind of elevating their game, trying different instant coffee from different roasteries. It was something when you look back, over the last decade, you couldn't find specialty coffee in instant format, but now increasingly there is better coffee quality in instant format and in ready to drink and in capsules increasingly. So we're taking the same approach that we take for coffee in general, and trying to elevate the quality in these innovative formats. So yeah, I think as Equator is growing, we've expanded into Southern California recently over the last couple of years, which is far away from our home base here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We have 3 cafes: Culver City, Los Angeles, and Laguna Beach. So different communities are learning about Equator, learning about the brand, and they're able to identify whatever coffee type that they're interested in. Some may only engage with Equator coffees in the ready to drink format, where others are more cafe focused. Others may enjoy instant coffee at the same time that they're drinking whole bean coffee, and others drink exclusively the capsules. So I think it's what Philip said earlier about meeting customers where they are, with the spoons of coffee. I think we take that same approach. We're not critical of anyone's pleasure of drinking coffee, and we want to meet them where they are and deliver the best quality coffee products that we can in whatever format they prefer.
Do you think that this also helps to ease people into specialty? Because there's a lot of this impression that these kind of products, if they're done with better quality, they can bring people into specialty coffee and start their journey into it.
I think so, definitely. Especially if you are, let's say, an instant coffee drinker, and you're switching from the inexpensive mass distributed brands, and then you'll maybe try Equator instant coffee for the first time. You'll say, wow, that tastes different, that tastes better. And we're doing crazy things. Like currently we have washed coffee from Ethiopia in instant coffee format. So you're not finding that in a grocery store typically. So yeah, I think that has to be happening at some level, where people kind of taste it, they notice it's so much better than it is. I mean, we see that across the spectrum, whether it's people coming into our cafes. We have one cafe that's located practically on the Golden Gate Bridge. There's a beautiful Art Deco building called the Roundhouse, and we have a cafe inside it with a view of the San Francisco Bay and the Golden Gate Bridge. We get a lot of tourists there, and some of them, we hope that's kind of also an introduction to specialty coffee, where they taste our coffee and they say, wow, this is so much better than what I'm drinking at home, wherever I'm coming from. And I think that's also happening with these other formats, like when they taste ready to drink coffee that tastes good for the first time and isn't overloaded with sweeteners, and you can actually taste the coffee. I think that's can be a light bulb moment for some people, where they're just say, well, this can be so much better than what I thought it was.
And to make a correlation with what Philip said before, because you mentioned to me that it's also difficult to make a correlation, like a direct correlation between are we getting more new customers because of this product, or are we just growing the ticket size of our existing customers with this product? But you also said that you have customers that are loyal to those categories of products now, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we have people who, we have the ability to subscribe to a particular coffee online. So if you love, our Equator blend, our house blend, you can have a bag or two of that coffee shipped to your house every week, or every 3 weeks, or whatever cadence you choose. But we're also seeing that with capsules. We're also seeing that with instant coffee, that people are like, yeah, I like to have that shipped to my house regularly. And they know with what frequency they're consuming coffee, and to have that coffee shipped directly. So yeah, I would say it's a mix. We do have people who are enjoying these products in addition to other things that they're buying from Equator, and there are also people who are kind of dedicated to those specific products as well.
Okay, the subscription, I guess, is very interesting, and we didn't speak a lot about that before because it is unusual, I guess, to see subscriptions for capsules and instant. You see mainly like for whole beans and for ground coffee, however people do it. Uh, but I guess it's interesting because what I want to know is if you've seen like more people signing up to those subscriptions in recent years, like to instant or to capsules, because you said that before people were kind of like treating themselves during the pandemic, and when they were ordering online, they were like, oh, I'm going to order the pacamara, or I'm going to order this geisha. It's more expensive, but I'm not buying a croissant and a latte at the same time, so I might as well try something different. And that now people stopped doing that to the same extent. Like now that people are out and about more, that they're not necessarily buying the more expensive or the more high-end coffees, but that they're going towards these types of subscriptions. Do you think that that's like helping to keep people in? Like they have become more used to fresh coffee. They don't want to go back to the supermarket.
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of in a inflationary cycle now for the last couple of years. So, when people were at home during the height of the COVID pandemic, yeah, they weren't going out to cafes. Some people used to go to cafes every day, on their coffee break from work, and they would buy a latte and a croissant, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then when you're taking that expense out of your daily budget, you're able to kind of deploy that money towards something else. And you for someone who loves coffee, and they're shopping online, maybe for the first time buying coffee online, they can say, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to treat myself because that $5 I spent in the cafe every day, I could buy a fancy bag of coffee. And it's, and taste something that I, maybe haven't had before. So, I don't think those customers went away, and we still do see interest in these kind of higher end specialty coffees. We had a cup of excellence coffee from Guatemala just recently that kind of sold through kind of remarkably quickly. So I don't think that people who like those unique coffees, those that boozy El Salvador, or whatever the unique variety or processing method or co-fermentation or carbonic maceration or whatever it is, there is definitely a dedicated set of customers who are attracted to those. But because we have such a dynamic assortment of single origin coffee that is just we're evolving throughout the year, those coffees are not subscribable. So, because we may only offer a coffee for 2 months or 3 months, and then it will be gone for the season. So for customers who do like a particular coffee that we offer year round, and they know they like that coffee, and they don't necessarily want to be shopping for coffee all the time, they can subscribe to that coffee and are generally very happy with that choice. Some people, they view coffee as this kind of comfort, this routine. Every morning I want to have a predictable experience. And then there are others who want to be excited by change. I'm kind of in that category where I'm like always drinking something different. But there are many people who are like, I know what I like. I want my coffee to taste this way. Let me subscribe to that coffee. So that's been a growing category since COVID. We had subscriptions available previously, but they've grown. They grew substantially during that kind of COVID times, and we've maintained subscribers for specific coffees as well as our kind of curated coffee programs where if you're an espresso drinker, we have an assortment of coffees that we will ship that are designed to be brewed as espresso. We do have a single origin curated subscription. We do have a blends subscription as well. So we try to offer something for everybody, whether it's instant or capsules or these kind of curated programs. We try to meet customers where they are.
Cast the wide net, I guess.
That's right.
The net wide. Oh God. But we can't talk about, I guess, this type of products without talking about research and development, and we talked about it a lot, because I guess like the size of machines and the price of machines to create these products, it's way too expensive beyond what the majority of coffee companies will be able to afford. So you always have to work with a co-packer, which is what Equator does for each of the product lines that you work. But I guess that takes a lot of time, and that can take a lot of investment from the team as well. As capsules were like the most recent product that you launched, can you explain a little bit about the process of doing that? And you also have become certified, right? You had 2 certifications for the capsule, one from the Biodegradable Products Institute and one from certified, to say that you're certified commercially compostable. Can you explain a little bit about then like the process of research and development for the capsules and these research into certifications and why you decided to go for them?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it goes back many years where we would get requests from customers like, do you have coffees in capsules? Or we would see the people searching our website for capsules, and for many years we just said no, 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 no. We don't. We're concerned about the environment. Our Equator is a B Corp certified company, and so we're taking into consideration people and the environment and our impact on the environment. So when we looked at capsules, they're made of whether they're made of plastic or aluminum, or they're like combining organic material with non-organic material. So yes, an aluminum capsule may theoretically be recyclable, but when you have that organic material in there, there's no place that capsule can be recycled locally. I know there may be some exceptions in parts of Europe, but there's also that environmental impact there when you're shipping spent capsules back to a venue that can actually remove the organic material and kind of compost that and recycle the aluminum. It's very, very complicated, and I think more than likely for the vast majority of capsules produced throughout the world, they're just bound for the landfill. And that was troubling to us at Equator, and we just said no for a long time. But the requests kept coming, we wouldn't get a lot of them, but they would be regularly coming, and we were introduced to compostable capsules, and we were kind of interested in the idea and engaged with one company, but it was they were typically like far away, and it never really worked out until the co-packing finally came to North America, and there's a lot of discussion amongst the leadership team at Equator. It's like, is this something we want to do? How would we do it? So it was probably, I would say from the time that we became aware of this new kind of compostable capsule material to the time that we launched the product, about 2 years had passed. So it was no quick decision. But we did the research. We started with the manufacturers of the capsules, and then were introduced to the co-packers that were located in North America. We identified one that we had kind of a kinship with, and thought we could move forward. Discussed all of the potential issues and challenges, and then kind of moved into the practical R&D process, which took about 6 months of sampling. It culminated in a visit to their facility, where I spent 2 full days tasting coffee with them, and hand packing capsules, and then making grind adjustments and adjusting the amount of coffee that goes into the capsules, in order to get something that we thought kind of tastes as good as it possibly could, and with the limitations of the format. Will a capsule, a coffee, ever taste as good as a freshly pulled shot of espresso by a talented barista? No. But we feel that the capsules that we've come up with can taste as good, or really better than any other kind of capsules on the market. And they don't have that negative environmental impact. So where we're located, I was just going to add, where we're located, curbside compostability is very common. So it's the consumer, when they're done with these capsules, they just go into the compost bin, and they're able to decompose naturally in that environment.
Is there any part of the process that you didn't expect or you didn't anticipate? Because I imagine, like you said, you've been there for 2 days, but you had it was a 6 month process. So is there things that about the process that you can shine a little bit of light on, and that all things that maybe you didn't expect it, or things or costs that you didn't expect as well? Because I think if someone is thinking about doing that, I guess having that overview of the process could be very interesting for them.
Yeah, there was a lot of new learning. This was all kind of new, state-of-the-art machinery that I was seeing for the first time. I think working within the limitations of the format was a challenge, because when you are at a commercial espresso machine with grinders, you have the ability to make a lot more adjustments, but you're really limited by the size of the capsule, and the grind limitations, to be able to have the kinds of impacts that you want. It was surprising to me that rather small changes in dose or in a grind setting could have a pretty significant impact on the cup. So that did come as a surprise to me. That was revealed through the R&D process.
All right, awesome. I'm aware that we're on time. I don't know, you guys have commitments. I want to give at least one of the questions that we have on the Q&A here, send it to you guys. Would you have time to answer one question?
I do, yes.
Okay. Philip, would you have time to answer one question?
Can I choose, or are you going to?
No, you can always choose. If you don't have time, you can go as well.
Okay.
No offense taken there. But so Alejandro asked, Where do you see specialty coffee going in 5 to 10 years from now in terms of market and reach? What do coffee drinkers look like then? Very broad question. Philip, if you want to go first because you have to pick up the kids after this, feel free.
Yeah, well, Alejandro, I guess they look like you and me and everyone here. You know, when I read Algrano's report, the one that was published in December and done by Luisa and Erika, one of the main things you said was, well, the coffee taste got back to normal or a bit more. Yeah, it's a bit more normal coffee, so not too fancy anymore, but just a solid coffee. And it's still specialty, right? Because 82 points coffee are still considered specialty coffees. And if I look at what we do, and I named this coffee called Abbas, which is a 82.5 coffee, and that's the coffee that pays our bills. And I see that we are going to enlarge that section of our roasting operations. And yes, we always do the other stuff as well, because we like other coffee too. But these are our bread and butter coffees. And like speaking for, let's say, a Central European market, because we send coffee to Austria and to Germany and Switzerland, and maybe one day or another also to other places. But I would say there is, there is a need for solid coffees. And now I mix the other question. Not well, just tasty coffee that has a really good story, and not always the need or really strong need for certificates. Now, most of our coffees are certified in one way or another, but we don't really talk about it. Because what we realized is that we are much better in telling the personal stories than in promoting a certificate. So it just happens. The coffee just happened to be certified. And we also work in projects where actually want to work together with a newly established cooperative to reach a biodynamic, like the Demeter certification, for the one reason that once we're not there anymore, there will be something they have. Because for whatever reason, this collaboration could break up, they still have a certificate. So that is one of the reasons why we would work on that. But we wouldn't bank on it, and we wouldn't use it as a USP or something. It's just something that we take as a takeaway. So for us, in our case, stories, our personal stories of how we work with the coffee producers, how why do we buy this coffee, why do we like it, and how do we talk it. And then most of the coffees, I would say, 2/3 of our coffees will be tasty coffees between 82 and 85 points in 5 years from now.
Awesome. Thank you, Philip. You can run now and pick up your kids if you want, but thank you very much.
I still have 2 minutes, but thank you very
Okay.
much, Luisa. Very considerate, and lovely to meet you, Ted. And thanks for joining, all of you.
Thanks, Philip. Ted, I think you might have a different opinion there on what Philip said about the certifications, but I don't know if you have like an overview for what the coffee buyer will look like in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, 5 to 10 years is an eternity in the coffee world. I mean, regarding certifications, they're an aspect of what we do at Equator. There's so much more to the story. We do find there are customers that seek coffees that are certified, particularly organic production, organic certified coffees. And so not all of our coffees are certified organic, but many are. So if you do find that customer who asks or comes to our website to look for organic certified coffees, we have them available. And there's work on our end to make sure that happens. So our facility is certified organic. We are inspected by third parties annually in order to maintain that certification, and all of the the paperwork is in order and we can stand behind it. So I don't think it's the most important thing about what we do. We think the taste of the coffee is the absolute most important thing, and you can find outstanding certified coffees in the world, and so that's part of the world, the greater world of coffee. Where the market is going, I mean, I think it is expanding in new directions. In the last decade, I think we've seen a transition to more and more smaller specialty coffee roasters. So, there was kind of a generational shift in coffee, where you had kind of big chain coffee companies dominating the scene, let's say 20 years ago, and then you had smaller roasteries like Equator and in the US and others that were opening up and taking coffee a lot more seriously. And these companies have employed people now over 10, 20 years who have grown up in coffee, and some of them have ventured away from the companies that they worked for to start their own roasting businesses, open their own cafes. And now when we look, when I go traveling, let's say within the United States, you might go visit a small town and there'll be a specialty coffee shop there. And you absolutely didn't see that even 10 years ago. It was very unusual to find any kind of good coffee. And now it's become increasingly common that cities certainly have a wide range of high quality specialty coffee locations, but now even smaller towns are having that as people see opportunities. They say, oh, I went to San Francisco and I had this amazing coffee. It's like, why can't I get coffee like that in my own community? I'm going to open my own coffee shop there. So I would hope to see more of that, more high quality coffee getting into kind of smaller communities across the United States, increasingly in Europe. I mean, I think Europe has the same trajectory, where it used to be dominated by big brands, and now there are many smaller coffee roasters emerging. So I think we're going to see more of that. We're talking about like gateway avenues into specialty coffee, and I think for a lot of people that will be a oat milk lavender latte, where like that they're going to, some people will taste a signature beverage served in a cafe and start to think about coffee in a different way. And my hope is, as a purist, is that eventually
no lavender for a purist, then no lavender latte. Okay.
that they'll graduate to pour overs at home, but even if they just stick with the flavored lattes or whatever's getting them excited about coffee, I think that's good for specialty coffee at large, because it does expand the range of exposure to great coffee to a greater number of people, and ultimately that will help those that are growing coffee kind of sell more coffee into the consuming market countries.
Well, in that solid coffee category, I guess, as well, like below 85, which is, I guess, the majority of the producers produce most of. And if they can find markets for those coffees, that a lot of the times they end up being sold as commodity and mixed with other stuff. So the more markets they're able to find for that, I guess, the more profitable and the more viable their production will be in the future. So I think there's a lot of opportunity if I think about the future, even though now sometimes it feels like a bit grim if we're looking at the economy right now. I think there is a opportunity for the future. But Ted, I wanted to ask you so much more about code channel distribution, and I had other things in line,
Right.
but we ran out of time. And I have other questions here as well. So I saved them all. I'll send it to you and Philip afterwards, and we can include it in a newsletter for the people who joined and the people who didn't afterwards. But I wanted to thank you so much for the time. I know it's really early for you, so thank you for joining us when it's not even 9 a.m. for you. And thank you for everyone that's here as well. You're going to hear from us a follow-up with the recordings and the questions that we didn't manage to answer in time live today. Thank you.
Thank you, Louisa. Thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, we'll see you in the cafes or at the farm, I hope.
At the farm, but Chicago first. Okay. Bye-bye, Ted.
Bye-bye.